good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to talk about innovation in your practice. How many of you think innovation is important? I would suspect, especially since you're joining this session today, most of you would agree. And in fact, recent survey data proves this out even further. In fact, in a study by McKinsey, 84% of executives not only feel that innovation's important, but they consider their future success actually very dependent on innovation. Furthermore, organizations that are focused on innovation achieve 11% higher revenue and 22% greater growth. So we believe innately innovation is important to us. And based on the data, it obviously has a positive impact on our bottom line. So for today's discussion, I'm going to give you some direction of how you can start to think about innovation in your practice in order to differentiate and stay relevant in this incredibly fast-changing world. My name's TJ Arcuri, and I'm a retirement plan consultant for Seiju Advisory, leading our practice out of sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, finally not 100 degrees anymore. And what you see here in the background is a photo of Shanghai, China. And I share this because my master's program was focused on international business, where we spent a lot of time learning how to integrate businesses, Western businesses, into China. Businesses that, as part of their growth innovation plans, it involved global expansion. And one thing that we learned, especially when we visited with companies in China, is it's incredibly difficult to just start a brand new office or presence in China as if you're in the US without some type of partnership or joint venture. And this is, many of you are already aware of this, but there are significant cultural differences, and there's also regulatory red tape that makes it incredibly difficult. So it's much more efficient and effective for those organizations to partner with well-established companies in China and Shanghai that know the culture well in order to get any type of product or service off the ground quickly. It was abundantly clear that how you innovate was as if not more important than what you are doing to actually innovate. So for your business, whether maybe this is your first time actually thinking about or talking about innovation, or you're midstream and you feel like there's something missing, I'm going to walk you through step by step of how we could start to think about innovation in our practice and fill in any gaps. If you feel like you're falling behind or you're just simply looking to get ahead of the competition. So in order to do that, just to lay out the format of the discussion, first, we'll actually define innovation specific to us as retirement plan consultants or wealth advisors. It's really hard to know if you're innovating if you don't really know what that means for you. Second, it's critically important to have the right mindset to fuel innovation. So we'll talk about what that means. Then we'll walk through an exercise of how to identify where you need to innovate in your practice, to address your weaknesses, extinguish those threats before they become real. And this is important because where you need to evolve as a business is personal, so this exercise can help you. And lastly, once you know where you need to innovate in your practice, we'll talk about how you can innovate with practical examples that apply to us as retirement plan consultants. So let's start with a definition of innovation for us, right? After going through dozens of different kind of angles of how we can look at innovation, I landed on this one: the future delivered. It's so simple, right? We're anticipating the needs of our clients in the future and doing what we can to deliver on it today. And if we want to maybe even unpack that further, we could deliver the future by creating, developing, launching a new product, a process, or service that's more efficient, effective, and the most important part, creates that competitive advantage. In our world, that means offering a high-value service that is unique from the competition. How we do this depends on what the opportunity area is, our financial ability, and the time and energy we have to invest in those gaps and opportunities. So now that we have a simple definition, a vision of what innovation means to us, it's critically important to really open our minds, be honest with ourselves, and take advantage of feedback to learn where in particular we need to innovate. And it's all about having a growth mindset. For those of you that don't know what a growth mindset is, it essentially means that you're not done. Your capabilities don't stop. You can continue to be developed through hard work and dedication. This means being able to look at your failures, your knowledge gaps, and feedback as a way to really propel yourself and your business forward. And look, 2020, right? Many of us have felt some type of failure. We've lost deals or prospecting has slowed. We've been stretched in ways before. I've heard consultants say, I've only consulted in the past, but now I'm having one-on-ones with participants. Having that growth mindset allows us to look at these challenges or losses as a way to get better and expand our value proposition, right? I can't tell you how many times I've been in this industry, 14 years, that colleagues or myself on occasion, even when we've lost a really good opportunity, we've said at the end when we've found out we lost, there's nothing we could have done to win. That statement, that just fuels this fixed mindset where we settle on what we're good at, sticking to what we know, and not letting that discomfort of losing or the unknown actually drive our growth. But the reality is there's always a way to grow, always a way to get stronger. And as author Marie Forleo recently said in her new book, you could do whatever you set your mind to if you just roll up your sleeves, you get in there and you do the work. Everything, and my favorite word out of the whole thing was, it's figure outable. So if we embrace this growth mindset, we can then dig in to identify what are our weaknesses, what are our threats, and more importantly, the opportunities that can help us identify and prioritize innovation. And we start by doing a formal SWOT analysis with our trusted advisors, people that we believe can give us honest and helpful advice. We may have ideas in our head of what our problems are or how we need to get ahead, but we should really take the time to write them down and timestamp it. October 2020, we had this conversation. These are our opportunities. These are our threats. So in future years, we can reflect. And with this conversation, I would highly recommend to invite others within the firm, or even better yet, outside of the firm, to join this conversation. That diversity of thought could be humbling, but it can also present some surprising and helpful ideas and eliminate any type of bias we have in this as an absolute critical phase. So on the left-hand side, what we're looking at is our strengths on the top, opportunities on the bottom. These are components that, are really helpful in achieving your objectives. Your strengths are perhaps why your clients value you. So it's your things like your stellar service, your timely responsiveness, while your opportunities are actually external to you and your business and attributes of your environment that could actually help you grow. Maybe, for example, there's a geographic location that you could expand into based on former relationships and the growth of that particular territory, right? On the other hand, on the right-hand side of this chart are the weaknesses and the threats. And that's what's actually preventing you from reaching your objective. So for example, a weakness I hear all the time from my peer group is I don't have enough time to do marketing. Individual and practice level marketing is of growing importance. So it should be noted honestly whether this is a weakness that's preventing you from reaching your long-term objectives. On the other hand, there are threats that in some cases can be out of your control, like think regulation or retirement reform, like think the election coming up, how that's going to impact our businesses, right? Thinking through the threats to our business model will help you think about how or where you should diversify or divest of services, products to minimize or eliminate the broad harm to your opportunities or your strengths. This is, again, a very personal exercise. So I would encourage any of you joining us today, whether you own your own book of business or own an entire practice, to walk through this process annually, identify your key innovative priorities to leverage your strengths, and really take advantage of those opportunities while minimizing those threats and weaknesses. When we have our top priorities in place, the next step is we can discuss then how is the best way to innovate on our priorities. And many of you have heard this before, but we'll take this a little bit of a different angle and go into some specifics. We can innovate in really 3 different ways. The first, the most obvious, is we can build it ourselves or create it within the firm using resources available to you today. You can buy a practice or merge with another that has access to maybe resources you need that are too difficult for you to obtain on your own or deliver on your own. And it's a core part. What you're trying to acquire is a core part to what you do. And lastly, an area that is certainly growing rapidly, especially we're seeing this in the record keeping space, is this concept of creating a partnership. So if your sense of urgency is really high, but the type of work, think like technology development, for instance, is not part of a core work function for you, it probably makes sense to partner with somebody who's great at it, that could deliver a high quality experience to your clients. Each of these, again, I'll go into more detail, but just another way to think about it is to show this as time to market versus how much the work or product is core to your business. For example, let's say you have a well-established consulting practice with most of your employees in Florida. You've had a ton of prospect and finalist presentations in Texas, but you just can't seem to gain traction in the market without some type of local presence. Furthermore, you find that in order to hit your growth targets in the near term and long term, access to that growing Texas market is your next best opportunity. You find that your competition has a well-established presence there, teams, that by just moving one person there or hiring one person there, it's just not going to cut it. So this is where maybe considering buying a well-established practice, culturally immersed in that territory, could make a lot of sense. On the contrary, you find that, and we're hearing this all the time, clients are more interested now in information security as it relates to their retirement programs. Information security, cybersecurity, not a core function for me, many of us as retirement plan consultants, but clients ask for it, and the needs for it are probably sporadic at best. So we probably shouldn't be spending our time and resources on this type of issue. So this is where partnering with a firm that's well established in this space on a contractual basis could make a lot of sense. Your client has an urgent need, but it's not core to what you do. So you can create a partnership to deliver on this need quickly and in a high quality way. So let's dive into each of these 3 foundations, discuss when it's relevant, and I'll give you some practical examples that you could take away and think about today for your own practice. So the first is this concept, again, of building within your current business or creating a product or service using the resources available to you today. And we choose this option when it's core to our main business. For example, our core business we could define as generally financial advice or investment advice. So is there something within this core competency that's missing that we can expand into? In these cases, we also have a very low sense of urgency. Building can take a lot of time, so we have the time to build it out. We also have capital available for development. It can be very expensive to develop your own service or product, especially in our industry that's so highly regulated. So we should be prepared to spend a little bit. We're willing to also take risk for a higher return trade-off. Considering it can take time or money away from other things, this is a risk, and we should be willing to accept the risk for the potential return. The last 2 things, we want complete control of the change. So if our leadership team is moving on all cylinders and we have a sound management framework and we don't want to jeopardize that, maybe it makes sense to keep it in-house. And similarly to that note, culture containment is critical. And this is a big one. I once heard a quote, actually it was when we met with a company in China. They said that culture can beat strategy any day. And it's so true. You can have great ideas, great services and products, but if the culture doesn't jive, the idea doesn't work. If one of your strengths is your culture and time is on your side, building may be the best option to keep the culture intact. So this warrants special attention. Now let's talk about some examples of this relevant to what we do. The first is social media. I don't know if this is any surprise to any of us, but going back to the marketing comment, you don't necessarily need a massive marketing team to create a LinkedIn account personally or at the firm level. And there are basic how-to trainings if you want to learn how to optimize its use. And I say this because of two critical points. Number one, according to LinkedIn, we as retirement plan consultants are only connected with 2% of our target buyers, 2%. And that's important because 50% of LinkedIn members say that they're more likely to buy from a company they engage with on LinkedIn. So it's worth the time to establish and consistently present a prospect through this LinkedIn channel. Secondly, specific to business consulting, if you've been traditionally focused on the DC space, looking to grow revenue, you should consider investing in defined benefit consulting services and non-qualified plan services. The DC space has gotten a lot of attention over the past decade, but pension and NQP consulting is certainly growing more attention. It could be not only a good cross-sell opportunity for maybe some of your larger current clients, which can help you raise revenue, but it broadens your value proposition to prospective clients. And lastly, if you're focused on the plan sponsor level for consulting, it might be time to start investing in the participant experience through education or wealth management. Our business as retirement plan consultants, whether we like it or not, is slowly shifting more towards what we can do for the participant and their experience. So we can consider hiring wealth advisors or education consultants, or if our people have some capacity, training up their skill sets through formal training and licensing. So building can be a great option if you're looking to maintain control, time is on your side, and you have some capital to invest, but sometimes that's just not enough. And you're too busy consulting, managing client relationships, that you don't have the time or the team to analyze what is your next best step. And this is where buying or merging with another practice can be appropriate. In the long term, we do believe, just broadly speaking, that one of the keys to success in what we're doing as consultants is to obtain scale, offering a broader value proposition to clients at a reasonable cost. So this is where the option to buy or merge with an existing business, established business, could make a lot of sense. And contrary to building, we choose buy or merge with a business where there is a high sense of urgency and a high need to fill skills or offerings gaps, and can identify a business line with maybe congruent cultures, or our business is agile enough, open enough that we can work with all different types of people and backgrounds. Before joining Sagio, I'll share from my personal experience, I did contemplate starting my own practice. But at the core of it, I really wanted to focus on doing work for the clients. But as most of you appreciate, there are many other business requirements with owning your own practice, like billings and receivables, marketing, investing in alternative advice solutions, and the list just goes on and on. It made way more sense for me to join an organization that was well established, where I could just plug and play. And it gives me the similar level of autonomy to lead the practice with a firm that I was philosophically aligned with. Some additional examples for you. The first one in particular, I'm very passionate about, data analytics. Whether we're looking to bring our investment analytics to the next level, leveraging predictive analytics, developing proprietary custom target date funds, or leveraging structured data to provide total retirement design recommendations, the ability to leverage data in a meaningful, differentiated way is going to be critical to our success in the next 5 to 10 years, if not forever. Imagine the day after a deep analysis of a client's total retirement benefits offering, you could provide them with a predictive analytics report that shows the current plan design's probability of success against their goals, with a full prescription of alternative levers to improve their success, with full anticipation of risks and roadblocks along the way. How cool would that be? It's simple, value added, and it would be differentiated. Separately, there may be a market, kind of like the example I gave earlier, service or location that your competitors dominate in, and after review, you might need to buy them or partner up to really get deep into that market. And the last, we're also seeing some firms scoop up pay and benefits consulting groups to expand their value proposition beyond retirement. So if you've decided that your core business is to help businesses optimize their overall benefits program offering, this can fall then within your core competency and provide more opportunities to expand your service offering. The reality is your team most likely won't have the time or the expertise to help with this type of work, so an acquisition would certainly make a lot of sense. Speaking to this kind of theme of acquisition, before we get into partnership, I think it's really important to talk about how advice has evolved and where it's going into the future. It's becoming a key area of innovation for us as advisors. And again, this could fall right between the acquisition and merge option with a partner option, since you could essentially do both to accomplish the same goal. On the left-hand side, you have the traditional technology advice channel, more recently coined as robo-advice. And then on the right, you have the traditional people-based advice, which is what we've been doing for decades, right? But in the middle is this hybrid concept that joins digital advice with people-based advice. You're seeing more record keepers spend a lot of time on this middle section, which gives the pricing and experience flexibility. Think like Empower's acquisition earlier this year, Personal Capital, really helps them dive into this middle space. But we're also seeing advisors take advantage of existing technologies to give clients access to robo-advice, but also give the clients an option to speak with a CFP at the advisor shop. These are the next big engines of innovation in our space, and it's important to note that scale, again, will continue to be important in this area to remain cutting edge and cost competitive. So this is goes back again to that idea of merging, partnering can benefit the RIA looking to innovate in advice delivery. So let's talk more about the last pillar of the partnership concept. This is arguably the fastest and most cost-effective option when you need to get something to market quickly. The difference here is that you're looking for a partner to help you drive a business solution where the expertise required to make the solution successful is not core to what you do. And the best example, like I shared earlier, is technology. Most of us are not tech people, and that's why we rely heavily on office software and CRM technology to help drive our success, right? And that's critical part of business, of our business, which is developed and maintained by a separate provider. Like you think Microsoft is probably the best known name, who has expertise in technology. In this scenario, you also may not have the capital to invest in the new venture. And you don't want to use the limited capital to take a large investment risk. You also have to fill skills inorganically by leveraging the already established expertise, kind of like that China example I gave earlier, with you're leveraging companies there that are culturally immersed, understand how the business works, have the skills. Maybe it allows you to maintain your current business culture, but limit the exposure of the partner to your client. So there's minimal impact on the client experience. In some of these cases, you may be trying to fill a temporary void to fill. So You can strike in these cases, strike a limited contract to leverage the expertise for that particular period of time. Some examples, piggybacking on the advice discussion. As many of us know, a large and growing percentage of Americans use managed account investments by way of target date funds or comprehensive advice programs. Many advisors today are currently looking at how they can be an independent and objective advisor over that technology-based managed account solution through the record keeper. So the advisor can leverage the technology in place at the record keeper or technology firm to deliver the software solution, while the advisor could do what they're good at, serve in the fiduciary advice capacity of the managed account. This adds value to the client and the end participant because they're going to be getting unbiased advice. The second really hot topic this year, especially with the passage of the Secure Act, is MEPs, or more recently known as PEPs, pooled employer plans. Many of you know what this is, but just a brief background. It essentially allows unrelated employers to join a single plan, which gives them access to scaled record keeping and investment pricing while limiting their administrative fiduciary functions. Say that 10 times fast. While most, if not all of us, obviously are not record keepers, we don't do the administrative functions, we could partner with record keepers by serving as the 321 or 338 investment fiduciary over these plans. This can help you as an advisor cast a much wider net to the prospect community. And another area where having scale, having the bigger name or credibility can potentially help you squeeze in there to the record keeper or into the plan sponsor that's sponsoring the PEP. And lastly, are student loans or HSAs. And I'll specifically note HSAs. I read a report the other day that the assets in HSAs have more than tripled over the past 8 years. So it's growing in recognition, and it's certainly growing by assets. You can almost argue that it's as if not more important than the 401k regarding retiree medical savings because of the tax advantages. There are programs available today where you as an advisor can plug and play. You could partner with them, again, similar to the PEP, where you could deliver the investment advice over the HSA program using and leveraging open architecture investment lineups like we do today in the DC plan. So these are just a couple of many examples of why and how you can partner with existing organizations to drive innovation. So in summary, you're equipped now to take away I hope that you could take away some ideas to just start thinking about how to evolve, but more importantly, take these ideas, set aside a few hours or even a day with your trusted group of advisors to put in the work towards your future. Number one, again, think of innovation simply as delivering the future. Number two, turn your mindset into a growth mindset. Take the time to garner constructive feedback and ask yourself, what can I learn from this and how can we grow? Third, develop a personal and firm level SWOT analysis so you can prioritize what's important, most important for you to stay ahead and stay relevant. Lastly, choose the best solution to drive innovation success by building it yourself, buying, merging into another practice, or partnering with a well-established business to complement the skills available in your firm today. If you have any questions, sorry if you've asked questions throughout, I'll certainly follow up with you afterwards. Feel free to email me, call me, shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'd love to discuss more with you. Thank you so much for your time and have a great rest of the day.